The new dog wasn't on the roster. No intake form, no chip, no paperwork. Just a cage marked in red tape, "Do not open." That was the first thing I noticed when I walked into the shelter that night. I'd worked the overnight shift for 6 months, long enough to know every bark, every flickering light, every smell of bleach and wet fur. But this was new. Cage 12 had been empty for weeks. Now there was something inside it. The dog sat perfectly still in the far corner, a black silhouette against the concrete wall. No tags, no collar. Just a single silver chain looped through the padlock on the cage door. The clipboard hanging beside it was blank, except for a line written in thick red marker. Subject 9. No handling, no adoptions, no contact. I thought it was a prank at first, something the day crew left behind. We did that sometimes to break the monotony. But as I walked closer, the air got colder. My breath fogged slightly even though the rest of the kennels were warm. The other dogs were silent. That was the worst part. Usually, the moment I came in, the place erupted, barking, tails against metal, claws scratching concrete. Tonight, nothing. Even Rufus, our loudest pit mix, crouched low in his kennel, whining softly with his nose pressed to the gate. The black dog didn't move. Its eyes were open, fixed somewhere behind me. When I turned, there was nothing but the row of kennels and the hallway leading to the front desk. I did my rounds anyway. Checked water bowls, cleaned messes, logged feeding times. Routine kept the fear away. But every time I passed cage 12, I felt it watching me, not like an animal waiting for food, but like a person trying to remember your face. Around midnight, I called my supervisor, Tina, to ask about the new intake. No answer, just her voicemail. "Leave a message. If this is about the new one, don't touch it. Don't try to feed it. Just stay out of the kennel area after hours." I hung up before she finished. She sounded nervous. Tina never sounded nervous. The snow outside thickened, muting the world into silence. I sat at the front desk with a cup of coffee, the hum of fluorescent lights filling the air. On the security monitor, the kennels glowed green in night vision. Every dog was lying down. Every cage door was shut. Except cage 12. The door was wide open. I blinked hard. It had to be a glitch. The cameras froze sometimes when the power flickered. I switched to the live feed. Closed. Padlock intact. I exhaled and leaned back. My pulse slowed. Maybe I needed sleep. Maybe I was just seeing things. But when I glanced down at the hall leading back to the kennels, I swore I heard nails tapping on the concrete. Slow. Measured. Like footsteps. I grabbed the flashlight and walked the corridor again. Each kennel I passed seemed quieter than the last. The dogs wouldn't even look at me. When I reached cage 12, the dog was standing now. Not facing me, facing the wall, head tilted upward as if staring at something only it could see. "Hey," I said softly, half to prove I wasn't scared. "You're okay, buddy." It didn't move, didn't blink. The light flickered once. I caught a glimpse of its reflection in the kennel glass beside it, just long enough to realize something was off. In the reflection, its mouth was open, but the real dog's wasn't. I backed away slowly, the flashlight trembling in my hand. When I reached the hallway corner, every kennel light cut out at once. Total black. Then, one low sound rolled through the corridor. Deep, wet, and wrong. Not a growl, not quite a voice, more like something remembering how to speak. By the time the power came back, cage 12 was empty. I didn't sleep the next day. When I came in for my next shift, The cage was closed again. The padlock was still in place, and the black dog was sitting exactly where it had been before, perfectly still, as if it had never moved at all. The red tape across the cage looked newer, freshly applied. There was a new note on the clipboard in the same thick marker. Do not open again. I started keeping a record that second night, not because I was told to, but because I needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. The shelter was quiet again. The storm hadn't let up, and the wind scraped branches across the windows like fingernails. Most of the town was without power, but our generator kept the lights buzzing. The dogs were uneasy, pacing, whining, refusing food. All except the one in cage 12. Subject 9. It hadn't moved since last night. Not an inch. Same position, same posture, same blank stare into the wall. I shined my flashlight through the bars and wrote in the log, 12:03 a.m. Subject 9 remains motionless. Other dogs agitated. Temperature in kennel block feels colder near cage 12. The thermometer above the gate read 54 degrees Fahrenheit. The rest of the building was 68. I was halfway through my rounds when someone knocked on the front door. Nearly dropped the clipboard. It was Eli, the new volunteer. 19, thin as a broomstick, always smelling faintly of cigarettes. I got snowed in last night, he said, stamping his boots. Figured I'd help with feeding. I wanted to tell him to go home, but truthfully, I didn't want to be alone. We worked in silence for a while. Then he pointed toward the end of the corridor. Why's that one taped off? Special case, I said. Don't open it. Eli crouched, peering through the bars. It's not even looking at us. Good. Leave it that way. He shrugged, but I saw him glance back 3 or 4 times as we moved down the hall. Every other dog kept as far from cage 12 as their leashes allowed. Later, in the control room, I replayed last night's footage. The cameras caught everything. My rounds, the blackout, the moment the feed glitched. I paused at the frame where the door looked open. For half a second, I saw it. A tall, shadowy blur standing outside the cage, head lowered toward the lens. Then static. I scrolled back. Nothing. Forward again. Gone. Only the timestamp flickered, like the system didn't know what second it was. When I turned around, Eli was standing behind me, pale. It whispered. He said, What? The dog. Well, you were in here. It said your name. I stared at him. You're joking. He shook his head. His voice cracked a little when he added, It sounded like you, but from the bottom of a well. I walked back to cage 12 myself. The dog was lying down now, finally. Its chest barely moved. No sound, no blinking. I forced myself closer. You said my name, I whispered, knowing how stupid it was. The air smelled like wet metal. My flashlight flickered. The dog's eyes rolled toward me, slow and deliberate. And for an instant, they didn't look amber. They looked gray, cloudy, like human eyes under ice. Something clanged in the storage room behind me. I spun around, heart hammering, but the door was shut. When I looked back, the dog was facing the wall again. At 3 a.m., Tina finally called back. Her voice was distant, like she was on speaker in a car. "You and the volunteer, stay out of the kennel wing tonight. Lock it up." "Tina, what's going on with this thing?" "Just follow protocol. Do not feed it. Do not talk to it." "Then what the hell is it doing here?" "We didn't take it in," she said. "It was dropped off by—" The line cut out. Static hissed for 5 seconds. Then a new voice came through. Lower, slower, broken into animal breaths. It said my name again. I hung up so hard I cracked the phone screen. When morning came, Eli and I sat at the front desk with the cameras on mute. Neither of us wanted to go back there. Through the glass window, we could just see cage 12 in the corner of the hallway, shrouded in dim light. The dog was sitting upright again. The padlock was gone. And written across the glass of its cage, in thick streaks of condensation, were 3 words drawn by something with a trembling hand. "Let it out." By the 3rd night, I wasn't pretending anymore. Whatever was in cage 12 wasn't just a dog. Eli didn't come back after the 2nd night. He texted once around dusk. "Can't sleep. Dreamed it was in my room. Its breath was cold." Then nothing. The shelter felt hollow without him. The dogs were restless again, pacing in circles, whining to things that weren't there. I noticed they never faced cage 12 directly. They always turned away, tails between their legs, like submission to something higher on the food chain. I sat at the front desk, staring at the stack of intake forms. Every animal that came in had a paper trail, except Subject 9. No record, no microchip number, not even a transport log. Just that one line in red marker. So I went digging. The basement archives were cold and damp, filled with boxes of handwritten reports. Years of paperwork, water-stained and curling at the edges. Somewhere in the back corner, I found a file marked Archived Incidents, 2018. Inside were a few shredded forms and a yellow sticky note that said, "Keep locked, cage 12.
Below that, a photo, grainy, black and white, showing a kennel that looked exactly like ours. Same concrete floor, same barred door. A shape sat in the corner. Not a dog. Something too tall, its head tilted in a way that made my stomach twist. The timestamp was February 13th, 2:37 a.m. On the back, written in pencil, "It mimics people it likes." I took the photo upstairs and checked the security logs for that date. The digital archive shouldn't go back that far, but there it was, buried under a mislabeled folder, Behavior 9. The files inside were short clips, all from different nights. Each showed a worker sitting near the kennel, speaking softly to something off-screen. In one, a woman's voice said, "Good boy, stay calm." Then, faintly, a second voice echoed her words half a beat later in the exact same tone. The next clip showed the kennel empty, the camera shaking violently as if it had been dropped. A face flickered past the lens just before the feed cut, familiar in a way I couldn't place. When I played the final video, the woman was closer to the cage now, crying. Her reflection glinted in the glass door, except it wasn't matching her movements anymore. Her reflection smiled. The file ended there. I should have left. I should have walked out, locked the place, called the police, anything. Instead, I went back to cage 12. The dog was lying down again, its head resting on its paws. It looked almost peaceful. But as I stepped closer, I noticed a faint scrape on the concrete beneath the cage door, like it had been dragged back into place recently. The flashlight beam caught something on the wall behind it. Writing, faint but visible through the grime. Shelter 9, contained. I pressed my ear to the bars, heart thundering. That's when I heard it. A slow inhale, then my own voice whispering from the dark. You're not supposed to be down here, Nora. Every hair on my neck stood up. I stumbled backward, dropping the flashlight. The beam spun wildly, catching something that moved just behind the dog. For an instant, I saw another shape there, a figure crouched low, its limbs too long, its head tilted at the same unnatural angle. And then it was gone. When I finally found the flashlight again, the cage was empty. The door was still locked. I ran to the office, ready to grab the phone, but it was already ringing. The caller ID just said, Tina. I answered. Tina? You went into the records. Her voice was steady this time, not afraid, resigned. You shouldn't have done that. We've been trying to bury it. What is it? Not a what, she said. A who. The first caretaker who tried to put it down. Silence crackled. She stayed inside the kennel too long. It learned her. Now it keeps coming back. The line died. When I looked up, the monitor screens were all black except one, Cage 12's feed. The kennel door was wide open, and something was standing in the hallway just outside it, motionless. It was facing the camera, and it had my face. I don't remember leaving my chair, but I must have, because when I came to, I was standing in the hallway holding the flashlight like a weapon. The shelter was silent except for the low, steady hum of the generator. Every door down the corridor was open now, except Cage 12. That one was shut again, padlock gleaming under the flickering light. I stepped closer, breathing through my teeth. My reflection glimmered faintly in the kennel's glass, except there were two of me. The second one stood a step behind, just far enough to seem like a shadow at first glance. Then it smiled. Eli? I called, though I knew better. The word came out hoarse, too quiet. From somewhere behind the kennels came the sound of dripping, slow, deliberate, almost rhythmic. I followed it into the back corridor, past the mop closet and down toward the quarantine wing we hadn't used in years. The smell hit first, like wet copper and bleach. There was light under the door. When I pushed it open, Eli was sitting on the floor beside an overturned food bin, his hands trembling. His face was gray, his eyes bloodshot. It wanted me to help, he whispered. Said it was hungry. I took a step closer. Where is it? He lifted one shaking finger toward the far end of the room. Something moved in the corner, too fluid, too tall. It straightened slowly, vertebrae cracking one by one. In the half-dark, it looked like a man wearing a dog's skin wrong side out. The shape of it shifted with the light, legs bending backward, spine coiling and stretching like rope. It looked at me with my own face. For a long time, neither of us moved. Then it took a step forward, head tilted, mouth hanging just slightly open. When it spoke, the voice came in bursts, like a radio losing signal. You brought me back. Eli screamed and bolted for the door. I tried to follow, but my legs wouldn't move. The thing leaned closer, studying me. Its eyes were dead gray, but behind them something pulsed, like heat shimmer above asphalt. I swung the flashlight, catching it square in the face. For a heartbeat, the image fractured. The dog's skull, my features, something else underneath, flickering through like broken film. Then it vanished. Every kennel in the corridor exploded in noise, barking, claws against metal, the pure animal panic of prey. I ran, slamming the doors behind me as I went. The lights cut out one by one, chasing me down the hall. When I reached the front office, Eli was crouched beneath the desk, sobbing. "It's not locked in anymore," he said. "It's choosing now." I grabbed the phone. Dead line. Static only. For a second, I thought I heard breathing through the static. Then my own voice whispering back, "You shouldn't have opened it." The generator groaned, and every light in the shelter went white hot. The sound that followed was indescribable, like metal twisting underwater, like a growl made of human throats. The air pressed inward, heavy and hot. Eli stumbled to his feet, tears streaking down his face. "I can stop it," he said. "It remembers me." Before I could stop him, he ran down the hall toward cage 12. The barking stopped. Just like that. Silence. When I reached the end of the corridor, the kennel was open again. Eli stood inside, motionless, the chain looped around his wrist. For a heartbeat, I thought he was alive. Then his head tilted back, and a smile too wide split his face. He turned, eyes glassy and wrong. "You shouldn't have come back, Nora." The lights blew out. I woke up hours later in the front office, half buried in papers and glass. The storm outside had stopped. Pale dawn light filtered through the window, dust motes drifting in the air. Every kennel door was open. The shelter smelled like rain and iron. I walked the halls slowly. Every animal was gone. No tracks, no fur, just emptiness. Cage 12 stood open, the padlock hanging loose on the floor. And carved into the concrete by something sharp and deliberate were 3 words. "Stay with me." The official report said the power went out around 4:20 a.m. When animal control arrived, the front door was unlocked and the alarm was still armed, meaning no one had come or gone. The logbook at the desk was open to a blank page. No one could explain why the floor was slick with water or why every kennel gate was standing wide open. But I can. When I woke up the second time, the light outside was pale and blue. The world felt drained. The storm clouds were breaking apart over the tree line, and the generator had finally gone silent. I could hear birds again for the first time in days. I was sitting behind the desk, though I didn't remember sitting down. My uniform was soaked through, my hands stiff and cold. The smell of bleach was thick enough to burn. The phone line crackled quietly beside me, someone breathing on the other end, faint and slow. "Eli?" I whispered. The breathing stopped. Then softly, my own voice answered. "They'll come soon. Don't let them open it again." The line went dead. The first knock on the door made me jump so hard I dropped the phone. Through the window, 2 men in animal control jackets stood in the snow, stamping their boots. One of them waved, smiling. I hesitated before unlocking it. The taller one, badge reading S. Kramer, looked around at the mess. "Rough night, huh? Supervisor said you had a containment breach." I nodded dumbly. "It's handled." He squinted toward the kennel wing. "Which one was it?" "Cage 12, I said automatically. He flipped through his clipboard. 12? He frowned. There is no 12 on this floor plan. Ends at 11. I stared at him. It's at the end of the hall, next to the supply closet. He shook his head slowly, showing me the paper. He was right. The blueprints stopped short of that corridor entirely, as if the space never existed. Kramer motioned to his partner. Let's check the back anyway. I tried to stop them. Wait, don't! But they were already halfway down the hall. The barking started before they reached the end. Not from dogs, something deeper, layered, like a voice and a growl pressed together. Then came the metallic snap of a chain. Kramer shouted something I couldn't make out, and the lights blew again. Every bulb, one after the other. When the emergency fluorescents flickered back, the hallway was empty. I think I lost time after that. The clock above the desk jumped from 8 o'clock to 11:17, though the second hand still ticked normally when I noticed it again. I was writing without remembering starting. New entries in the behavior log, line after line in my own handwriting. Subject 9 remains calm, responds to name, temperature normal, do not open. The pen shook between my fingers. The words kept coming like someone else was moving my hand. When I finally dropped it, the pages were full, my name signed at the bottom of each. That's when I saw it. Cage 12 was back. The wall where it had vanished was solid again, the red tape freshly wrapped across the bars. Inside, a black dog sat quietly, amber eyes reflecting the weak morning light. Its fur was clean. Its chain was new. I stared at it for a long time, too tired to run. It tilted its head just slightly, exactly the way I do when I'm trying to listen. Eli? I whispered. It wagged its tail once. When the new staff arrived later that afternoon, I was gone. The logbook was still open on the desk, the last entry written in thick, shaky letters. Subject 9 returned, contained, Cage 12, do not open. They say another caretaker will start next week. The shelter has to stay open. The county doesn't fund closures anymore. The new intake forms are already printed, sitting by the desk. And on the clipboard beside Cage 12, written in that same red marker, there's a fresh note. Caretaker, N. Trent. And below that, in smaller handwriting, mine, though I don't remember writing it, she's a good girl. Don't open the door. If you ever find yourself at a small-town shelter, one of those forgotten ones on the edge of nowhere, and you see a cage sealed in red tape with no paperwork, don't ask about it. Don't feed it. Don't talk to it. And whatever you do, don't look too long into its eyes, because it might look back, and it might remember you. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Share this video with someone who loves a slow burn horror, and join us next time for another tale by the fire. Until then, keep the lights on and the doors locked.